If you've ever wondered what sweeping generalizations people make about designers, you're gonna find out in this video, that's for sure. You might have seen a trend going around YouTube recently of assumptions about me videos, where a YouTuber will ask their viewers to write in with things they assume about them based on what they've seen in their videos, and then the YouTuber will respond. I decided to put a designy twist on this because I was really interested to see what people thought in general about web and digital designers. So I got people to send in their assumptions, and there's some very interesting ones, let me tell you. Some are very accurate and some are a little bit confusing. If you're new around here, if this is one of the first videos you're seeing of mine, then hello, I'm Charlie, I'm a designer, and I can't really speak on behalf of all designers everywhere, I'm aware of that. So if you're a designer watching and you think differently to me in response to any of these topics that we'll cover today, then please feel free to leave them down below in the comments, leave your own thoughts. And if you're not a designer, then I hope this video will help clear some things up with you, or maybe help you get to know the designers in your life a little bit better. All your desks are aesthetic AF with at least one tiny potted plant. There was a couple of assumptions about our workspaces and how beautiful they were. I would say that it is pretty common for designers to have like nice items around them. I'm guilty of having a potted plant over here myself. Meet this cactus. I don't know what it is. I think that we just are visual beings and we like having pretty things around us. It inspires us. So that probably explains the cute plants. Designers are bloody obsessed with fonts. There was a couple about fonts, more than a couple actually. Some people said that designers think of themselves as a lord of the fonts and they're policing fonts all the time. Some people said that they thought designers had like this secret stash of fonts and backgrounds that only elite designers can tap into. Interesting, we're not that cool of a secret society, unfortunately. The font thing is funny to me. I think that it's more of a graphic designer thing, to be honest, more so than web and digital designers. We love a good font, don't get me wrong. When there's a nicely designed font, especially a web font that just looks like beautiful on a web page, we're probably gonna like salivate over that a little bit. But I wouldn't say we're the font police. I think we definitely have opinions on what fonts work best for what situations and like what sizes fonts should be at. But I'm gonna say that I don't think designers care as much about fonts as non-designers think we do. I always assume that designers also draw or paint or do some similar kind of art. I think it's really good and healthy for designers to do this, to be creative in a more analog way than just being on our computers all the time. But yeah, I don't know if all designers do, to be honest, especially digital and web designers or UX product designers, you know, when we're getting into that side of digital things where it's more about the user flow than it is about the visuals and being creative. So no, I'm gonna say not all designers also draw or paint and things like that. Because you do stuff on computers, if mine breaks, you'll know how to fix it. Sorry, incorrect. I don't think this is a sweeping generalization that can be made about all designers. We do spend a lot of time on our computers, that's for sure. And if you have a problem with wanting to like resize an image or something like that, we can definitely help you out. But if a computer breaks, I personally don't know how to fix it. Maybe I should learn. Designers overvalue their own opinions and they overvalue how much impact tech has on the world. Overvalue our own opinions. When it comes to design, I don't know if it's overvaluing to say that maybe we have a better sense of what's like good and bad because we have that design training and the design thinking and we know what to look out for. I feel like the person who wrote this one in doesn't think that tech or design has much impact on the world, which is why they're saying this, I guess, but I think tech has a huge impact on the world. Like, our world would be completely different if it weren't for the tech scene. Just the other day here in London, walking down the high street, I was noting that all of the shop fronts were filled with things like barbers and nail salons, like stuff that you need to do in person, and that's because tech, like Amazon, online shopping has really taken over, and yeah, there's just not so many small stores before. I'm not saying that's a good impact on the world, but it is an impact, and yeah, I don't think that's overvaluing the impact it has, but perhaps that's like a rant to have in another video. Let's move on. Designers all use Mooji pens. Again, I can't speak for every designer, but yeah, I use Mooji pens. They're my favorite. I think they write really nicely. But I didn't know it was a thing that all designers did, so fellow designers out there, are you a Mooji pen fan as well? Let me know in the comments. You dream in designs you're working on. I don't, and I'm pretty bloody thankful that I don't, because at the end of the day, even though design is fun and creative and we're like making things, it's still work, and who wants to dream about work? That just sounds stressful. No. There was a couple about the design process though, where it seems that most people are saying that they think that a designer basically, well, this one describes it, basically stares out the window until a mostly formed design pops into their head, and then the rest of the process is just tweaking and refining. And then another one says that the finished result isn't too far off from where you started. You start with a clear picture of what the final design will look like and you work to get as close to it as possible. This is definitely not the case. Sometimes it is on a very rare occasion, but we don't often start with the finished design in mind. You start sketching and exploring and coming up with a bunch of different ideas, always trying out multiple options, like different ways of arranging the content on the web page, and keep working on it from there until you refine it and get to the finished design. A lot of the time, actually, even if you do have like an initial idea, when you first get the brief of what you should make and what it should look like, once you put it on the page, it doesn't feel quite right, because I think when you're like seeing it in your mind, it's a lot fuzzier and like you're not seeing all the pixels, and when you do get it down on the page, sometimes it doesn't work out and it can feel a little bit off. So no, that's not how the design process works, and it's not a lot of sitting and staring out the window. There's a lot of thinking involved, but most of that thinking is like done while sketching or moving things around on the page, you know. It's not as easy as it looks, basically, is what I'm saying. You always feel creative and inspired. Unfortunately, very incorrect. Creative block is a real thing for designers, and it is a let me tell you that. When that creative block hits, you sit there thinking that, what, am I even cut out for this job? Can I even do it anymore? My whole thing is to be creative, and why can't I do it right now? But, you know, we're people just like anyone else. We're not like creativity robots who can just turn on the creativity tap whenever we want to. So yeah, there's definitely times when designers don't feel creative and inspired, but usually, especially the further we get into our careers, we work out ways around this and we work out what to do to push through that and to like make it happen, basically. There are a few interesting assumptions that were about extremes. There was one saying, I assume they have houseplants that are either immaculately cared for or all dead with no middle ground. People saying designers were either super cocky or really insecure, and then that our personal spaces are either completely designed and perfect or an absolute clutter. These two extremes. I think that's really interesting. If I put my like psychologist hat on for a second, I feel like maybe there's an impression that designers are super intense people and that whatever we do, we're gonna like go all in, or like, I don't know, we're gonna focus super hard on one thing. So with our houseplants, for example, if we're not focused super hard on the houseplants, if we're putting that focus somewhere else, those poor plants are gonna die. In these extremes, my personal space is often an absolute clutter. I'm just gonna be honest about that. So for that part is true. I assume that designers spend a lot of time feeling undervalued. This is interesting, and I think it could be true in the tech world, because in tech companies, design can often get like, I don't know, lost in the shuffle or something. It's often one of the things that gets like cut down on when we're running low on time. It's like, well, we're just gonna push this through. And that can lead designers to feeling like they need to like fight to have the value of what we do known, if that makes sense. But I feel like this was maybe true a few years ago and not so much anymore. I think that nowadays, as a society in general, we value design a lot more than we used to. So we're not having to fight for that to be seen as much. I assume that designers are not data-driven. Ooh, shots fired. I think good designers understand the value of data and know when to use it in the design, but I wouldn't say that we're data-driven. That implies that like the data comes first and we design based on that. I think that how we web designers like to work is to put forth our ideas and then test them, gather data that way. And I'm a big fan of not just relying on the quantitative data, so like the numbers and clicks and things like that, but of getting the qualitative data as well, talking to people, seeing how they use it, and yeah, that personal experience. Because I think that, well, either one of those approaches to getting data, you need both of them to get the full picture. The reason I say that I don't think we're data driven, and personally I'm okay with that, is because if you looked at just the data, it would say that, all right, you have to have like this giant flashing button above the fold because more people will click on it that way. You know, it's going to be like bold and standing out. And that's how you get a lot of shitty designs done, to be honest, when that's happened, when you're just going by the data and not considering things like overall brand perception that you want to have, overall experience that you want to give. Things like that are super important and are reasons why you can't just look at one little avenue and you have to see the bigger picture. So yeah, sorry, I don't think we're very data driven, but I think we are data informed, let's say it that way. Okay, and to end on, I've saved it till the end, even though it was by far the most popular assumption that I got through. Designers all wear glasses, usually with thick black frames. And I am sitting here being a very cliche example of this. I don't know what it is. Maybe we all wear glasses because we spend a lot of time on computers, and so our eyesight's really bad. And I don't know why we're all attracted to like the large black frames. It just happens. I don't know. Alright, I think that's all the assumptions we have time for today, but if you've got any others, if there's anything else you would like to generally assume about designers, tell me about it in the comments. I think it'd be hilarious to keep this going. If you took part in this, then thank you. It was really fun to see what you thought and to see what people assume about you based on what you do for work, you know. I thought that next I might do a follow-up to this, but about working in tech in general. So if that sounds interesting to you, then give this video a thumbs up, and also leave a little poll on a card as well. You can vote if you think I should do that or not. Let me know. If you are new around here on this channel, then please hit subscribe, because I post a new video every single week about design and productivity, side projects, getting things done. Thanks for watching this one though. Hope you have a good day, and I will see you in the next video.